Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Civil War Generals 2, Grant, Lee, and Sherman, and in today's episode we are fighting Part 2 of the Battle of Harper's Ferry. This is the early Battle of Harper's Ferry. Following early successes by General Jackson in the valley, we have pursued the Union troops up the valley and made a hypothetical attack on the American or Union forces at Harper's Ferry. And so far, we've destroyed about 5 battalions of enemy cavalry, about 2,600 men, I think it is, or 5 regiments of enemy cavalry, about 2,600 men, while inflicting about 300 to 400 more casualties and losing another 300 to 400 more of our own. The enemy forces seem much larger than our own and very strong, although somewhat scattered. We're scattered ourselves. We're fighting in action near Hulltown, where it seems like we finally run into enemy infantry, some pretty strong infantry units at that. And we're trying to maneuver in a way that we can continue to destroy more units in detail, but while limiting the enemy's ability to damage and do that to ourselves, although we already have had several regiments that have been very bloodily handled, such as the 8th Louisiana Regiment, which has lost almost 90 men total and has less than 100 effectives at the moment. With that being said, we've already made our move for turn number 7. This is potentially a 2-day battle. Still 9:30 in the morning. Let's go ahead and move forward here to the next turn. All right, so some enemy artillery is in place and is bombarding some of our units on top of these heights. The enemy is attacking some of our infantry here. Enemy cavalry is advancing and driving back some of our troops in column formation and inflicting very heavy losses. And that's what happens here on turn number 7. What I'm going to do here, and I mentioned this last time, is I'm actually going to go ahead and go into the settings somewhere. And we're going to turn off those videos because that probably does get a little bit annoying. So those video clips will be turned off there. Okay, so what can we do now here? Let's see. Well, we can see that their enemy cavalry did drive back the 7th Louisiana Regiment. Man, these Louisiana regiments really getting roughly handled by the enemy. But the good news for that is we can actually pull our troops north here, move these troops here, and then... Oh, no, undo. All right. And then this artillery, I think these guns can move and bombard. They can. All right, so we used our horse artillery, which can actually unlimber and fire in the same turn. It's the only artillery unit, I believe, that can do that. Meanwhile, these regiments are really not in good shape. But we do have the 1st Maryland Cavalry here surrounded, so we're going to go ahead and attack it with the 12th Georgia, and we forced it to surrender. So another Federal regiment is forced to surrender. That reduces their strength even further. More cavalry is destroyed. We're up to 3,100 enemy casualties as prisoners, to counterbalance the fact that we've lost over 500 actual casualties to their only 420. So there is that. Nonetheless, 3,000 enemy prisoners of war, that's not something to scoff at. Okay. Can we get in front of these guys? Put this here. These guys here. I didn't tell them to go there. Told them to go here. All right. Can any of these troops get there? We can. So it looks like we can surround the 12th Ohio Battery here with troops here in the north. So that hopefully is another enemy unit that will be forced to surrender next turn. Meanwhile, we'll mount our artillery up, and our infantry will follow as we continue moving south down this roadway. The real objective has to be to link these forces up with our troops from the north. So our troops in the north are trying to move south as quickly as they can to link up with the troops in the south. So our troops are somewhat divided, but if we can link the two forces up, then I think we've got a much better chance of stemming the Federal tide. I did see something over this way, I thought. Looks like there's enemy artillery batteries over here. See if we can get in behind them. We've got a lot of cavalry around in this area, so it'd be nice to be able to use them a little bit. So I'm going to move some of my infantry, 2 infantry regiments, and some of our cavalry over here. Looks like there are 2 enemy artillery batteries, the 2nd U.S. and 1st Ohio. I'd like to be able to destroy them. Destroying enemy guns is a good way to get some weapons cost captured. that can be used between battles to re-equip our troops. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and rest the 8th Louisiana. And that's going to do it for the troops in the north. Well, Richard Ewell's going to be taking part in helping to capture some guns, so good on you, Mr. Ewell. Meanwhile, there are enemy cavalry here in our rear. Question is, how do we best isolate them? Can we pull these troops back? I want to try and, again, the whole purpose of what we're doing at the moment is trying to force as many enemy units to surrender as possible. We'll have to keep some of our infantry forward here to guard these guns. I don't want to fight this enemy infantry here. He's going to attack. He's going to drive us back. But we are going to... And I can't dig him in there either because they're on a bridge. It's not a victory point either. There's no reason to hold that position. So we're going to go ahead and fall back away from Halltown. And up this hill. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and hit the enemy infantry that's in the open with our artillery to damage them as best we can to prevent pursuit or minimize the effectiveness of that pursuit. So we've got 3 batteries here, all focusing on the 67th, greatly weakening its firepower. Got another battery over here, which will hit the 1st Vermont. It's the only thing it can hit, plus we want to make sure that they're not inclined to attack any of the weak troops, such as Jackson's actual headquarters nearby. They may still attack there, I guess. It's possible. 3rd West Virginia is the only thing... Oh, they could have attacked the cavalry, my bad. So the 67th Ohio took a bit of a beating there from enemy or from friendly artillery, not enemy. And we'll see if we can get in around and surround the enemy guns next turn.
At ease, man.
Try and rest and replenish these guys. He does have 2 hexes. He can ride west, but he doesn't have much room to move west. We're also trying to crush his forces between 2 forces as these troops move south. So that's the situation there, and we'll go ahead and save, and then we'll go ahead and move forward to the next turn. Okay. Alright, so more enemy artillery. Alright, so the cavalry moved west toward our guns. They move. Trying to figure out how best to pin these guys in. Meanwhile, I do not want to engage them. Not with that guy, at least.
At ease, man.
This regiment's probably better suited to it. So we'll kind of continue falling back up the hillside. Meanwhile, these guys will rest on their guns.
At ease, man.
Okay. The 8th Ohio is very near. They're 52 firepower. So we're going to go ahead and bombard them as best we can, or whatever we can shoot at the moment, including the 3rd West Virginia. All right, we'll see if we can trap that cavalry unit. Meanwhile, this enemy artillery unit did unlimber, but hopefully surrounded and attacked on all sides. They will be overwhelmed and forced to surrender. They are not surrendering yet. Right, there we go. So we forced that battery to surrender. Good result there. Another enemy POW unit here. Good job, Richard Ewell, in helping to pin the enemy in there. Move you guys down this way. Artillery's coming down. Hopefully they can unlimber next turn and then play a role very quickly. Infantry's coming as well. But again, these guys are in rough shape. They've been marching all night, all day. This is not a very inspiring relief column, I would say. Okay. Some of these units are beat to hell. Alright, so 2 more enemy units here. Looks like we can more easily surround this battery, so let's do that. Okay, so we've got another enemy battery here limbered up. We'll go ahead and attack with our cavalry here. We're no need to charge. They should be forced to surrender relatively easily. Maybe actually we should charge. We attacked them twice and they didn't surrender yet. So I guess we'll do 1 charge here, and then this should force them to surrender, and they do. So we got another battery captured. And then we can move south, maybe, to get the 2nd U.S. artillery. There's more artillery back down this way. There's a lot of frickin' federal guns in this battle. But we just took another enemy battery there. Meanwhile, way up north, the 8th Louisiana still trying to recover. And what are we at now in terms of casualties and POWs? Whoops, not where I wanted to go. So the enemy's close to, actually just over 500 casualties. We're at about 520. They're also up to 3268 in terms of men surrendered. We're at 105,000 weapons cost captured to their 15. Victory points are starting to shift into our favor, and we're just shy of 1/5 of the way through the battle. The question really is the infantry. We've devastated their cavalry. That's been almost all their casualties, but how much do they have left in terms of infantry? That being said, let's go ahead and save, and then we'll move forward to the next turn. So enemy guns here that are unlimbered bombarded us. More guns bombarding our troops on these heights. Federal attack here against the 1st Virginia Irish Battalion, driving them back. The 8th Ohio just drove back the 5th Virginia. And that's the situation over there. Their cavalry continues to elude us and escape every goddamn way. Okay, so let's do this. I'm just going to pound with their cavalry. It's so shot to pieces. Trying to force it to surrender is probably just a lost cause at this point. But what we can do is we've got the 8th Ohio surrounded here now. So maybe we can knock out one of these strong enemy infantry brigades or battalion regiments. We can hit it with artillery first. And now I'm thinking they may be softened up enough to attack. So let's go ahead and attack these guys. What's the strongest unit we can attack with? It looks like this guy, the 2nd Virginia. It looks like we lost more men than they did on the initial attack. We'll attack again. And can any other unit... Alright, so this next attack I think will finish them. It didn't. Well, I don't think I can attack again. Shit. Alright, pivot this way. There's no way they can escape, so we should be able to finish them off next turn. At the very least. Unless they can bring reserves here, but I don't think they can. These troops are also exhausted. It's like they're all of their morale is in the red.
At ease, man.
I don't know why their morale is so goddamn bad. It's like you guys have been handing them pretty tough results, and yet your morale is in the toilet. I don't know if it's supposed to be similar to the historical battle where the Confederates had been marching nonstop for so long that they were just exhausted. I'm not really sure. Meanwhile, we've got this enemy unit of artillery over this away. We're going to try and get around it. We're not going to attack quite yet. So we can surround this battery of Napoleons. Be great to capture them. Continue resting the 8th Louisiana all the way up here on its own. 12th Georgia rests a little bit. Bring the horse artillery south here a bit. I mean, honestly, maybe I just
Man.
let these troops in the north here rest a little bit,
Man.
because we
Man.
probably want these guys to come into the fight a little bit more rested than they are. The one thing might be the artillery. Be preferable to get them into the action a little bit more quickly. So maybe we move this infantry up here, these guns up this way. See if we can't get them into action next turn. But the units that are really exhausted here, like Wheat's Louisiana Tigers, could use a turn. The 7th Louisiana needs some rest. The 15th Alabama definitely needs some rest. Bring Early up and unlimber him. Maybe that'll help the morale if the commanding general is forward a little bit more. So I think that's what we'll do there. I mean, there's a line of enemy infantry in Halltown. I don't know where the rest of their infantry is. We haven't seen a ton of it. Quite a bit of cavalry, but let's move forward here another turn. We'll see. Right, enemy artillery bombarding several different positions. 84th Pennsylvania continues to attack there. Looks like they're trying to bring up one regiment. The 67th Ohio is moving a little bit closer to the troops surrounded at the top of this hill. Good news for us is that they're not there yet. We'll attack the 8th Ohio with the Virginia Regiment, and finally we force them to surrender. So they were at 3,200 POWs. Now they're at 3,900 POWs. We now have the lead in terms of victory points. It's another 11,000 weapon cost captured. I think the enemy regiment actually only had reboard farmers' muskets, so they weren't great weapons. Alright, so I'm going to move some of these infantry going to try and slowly surround this Pennsylvania, the 84th unit. A lot of our artillery really has crappy lines of sight. It's like this one unit, the 3rd West Virginia, is like, yep, we can pound them into the dust, but they're not even a very good regiment. They're relatively small. But that's the one thing we've got a real good line of sight on, so let's just pound the hell out of them. All right, move these guys over here. No, actually, don't do that. Just unlimber, dude. This artillery can't do anything. We'll rest them. These guys, again, the West Virginia boys, the only thing they can see. We're going to rest most of them. We'll unlimber this artillery here. Oh, well, we'll get a good visual on the 84th Pennsylvania. Potentially. These guys down here. I think we're going to maybe rest some of those boys up there. Let's see. Can we get these guys around? We can. So we'll attack the 2nd U.S. Artillery. It's going to be a bit bloody to do that. It is a fresh and very good artillery battalion. But we eventually do force them to surrender. And so now I think we can continue advancing south. See if we can get behind this other artillery. This cavalry force swooping down here from the north is attempting to knock out enemy battery after battery. See if we can get this infantry here around this enemy artillery battalion. These guys need to rest. Move these guns onto these heights over here. Those guys are relatively fresh. And so are these guys. 7th Louisiana is not. 15th Alabama is most certainly not. 12th Georgia's getting there, but we'll give them another turn to rest. And so we were kind of strung out and kind of separated by a lot of different things. Some of these units' actual organization is disastrously bad, and yet they're still have really good firepower. I wouldn't be surprised if he attacks the 27th Virginia. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do here.
Man. At ease, man.
The one saving grace is thus far we have not been hit by an overwhelming number of infantry. But with over almost 4,000 POWs on the Union side and another 600, over 4,000 POWs and another 600 casualties, at 4,600 casualties total to just shy of 700 Confederate casualties, you got to think the relative strength, even if they started out outnumbering us, has got to be much closer to even now. So we'll have to see how this plays out. We still have artillery here pounding, quite a bit of artillery pounding us. They continue to attack to the west of the line. Are they gonna keep attacking that Virginia regiment? Is that just what they're gonna do? Because that might kind of suck. All right, so let's try and hit the 14th Indiana. We spotted a little bit more enemy infantry here, but they're in column formation, so we're just going to hit them as best we can with all this artillery that we have, everything that we can bring to bear anyway. 2nd New York is also really close and probably will be able to launch attacks against the 13th or 1st Virginia. So where we can't attack the enemy infantry in column, we will try to attack the enemy infantry in the open. Okay, we'll put them in. Move them south. Rest, rest. Move these guys south. Rest.
At ease, man.
Alright, so moving our troops south from the north. The woods are getting in the way and slowing us down a bit. I wonder if I can, like, march into Harper's Ferry. I kind of wonder if, like, the actual city itself is open. Oh, we're going to march 12th Georgia south now. 8th Louisiana still needs to rest. We'll dig the 33rd in and the 2nd. Pull the 48th back up to guard these guns. We'll dig the guns in and rest them. They could use a turn off. 67th Ohio's in the open, so we'll hit them with some artillery. Actually, most of our guns can now bear against at least that one unit. It's stronger in the open, so 67th may not be attacking next turn because we are going to pound the living daylights out of them. 75th Ohio could attack, but 67th I think will be unlikely to be able to attack. I'm going to try and surround these guys if it's the last thing I do. We'll dig them in. We'll see. I mean, these guys, the 2nd New York may move to attack and link up with these guys and kind of liberate them. Not liberate, but break them out. We'll go ahead and rest the rest of these guys. They've got quite a few guns, it seems like. Yep, there they go. They just attacked and broke them out. Meanwhile, they attacked up the hill with the 75th Ohio and drove back the artillery battery there. Now, the good news is we can, I think... All right, so we now have 2 enemy regiments, the 84th Pennsylvania and the 2nd New York, surrounded. The question is, what can we do about that? Because our troops that have them surrounded are so badly beat up. But there are 2 regiments fully surrounded now. And you can see it looks like the Federals are bringing up quite a lot of infantry here now. Can't move them. All right, so the 75th did manage to successfully attack us. So we're going to have to try and hit them hard with artillery to make sure that they can't attack further and exploit their gains. And isolate them on that hilltop, and then maybe we can surround them or cause them to pull back. We're going to go ahead and hit them real hard with all the artillery we can bring to bear here in the south. These guys are probably still too beat up to do much. 33rd Virginia will attack the 75th Ohio. Okay. They may attack south, but that'll just isolate them further. All right, so what can we do here? These guys have 20 and can probably attack well. These guys can maybe attack. All right, so we'll attack with a 31 firepower unit first. The defenders get the worse for the wear, but they're not broken or anything. Then we'll attack with the 20 firepower. Can we? These guys won't charge. Okay. They're really that well situated? Shit. Well, the enemy's going to break out for sure next turn. They're just going to attack Richard Ewell there for sure. Bring those troops south to try and help. If I can get these two enemy regiments to surrender, that'll go a long way toward helping. I could pound these guys with artillery. Maybe weaken them enough. Might even be able to cause them to desert if we hit them enough. If we have enough guns that can bear. Okay. Horse artillery there. Alright, so can these guys move south yet? They can. Alright, so let's do this. They'll move there. We'll move the troops that can move. Move the cavalry in here. Alright, so this enemy artillery is surrounded, so we'll go ahead and attack. Alright, so they're surrounded. They should be defeated next turn, I think. Like, are there any enemy troops around here? They all must have pulled out. So we can move in and take the city at leisure. Of course, the city doesn't really matter all that much.
At ease, man. At ease, man.
Okay.
At ease,
I just don't understand why we're whipping the Yanks and my men's morale is just disastrously bad. All right.
At ease, man.
Yeah, so they're gonna get broken out this turn. One way or the other, they're gonna get these two regiments out of there, unfortunately. We'll see. We'll see how things play out. Let's go ahead and end the turn. Okay, their artillery bombards there, and here, here. All these enemy guns. Oh, they attack up the hill toward that artillery? That's kind of surprising. Yep, there they go. Alright, so they broke the enemy out, but in a sense, they also further surrounded themselves. Problem is I can't do anything with that. can't actually... because these guys can't move. All right, everybody, and that's going to do it for this episode of Civil War Generals 2, the 1997 Sierra turn-based classic. We are through two parts of the Battle of Harper's Ferry, the early Battle of Harper's Ferry, where Jackson is trying to drive on the city of Harper's Ferry to cause the Union to panic and withdraw their forces from the peninsula without a fight. The first phase of the battle went very well, capturing over 2,000 Federal cavalry and several Federal guns. This phase has not gone as well. The Union is on the offensive, and they are driving hard. Their infantry is coming up. Their artillery is unlimbering. Our troops are still scattered. Our troops are starting to get exhausted. Their morale is starting to drop, and this fight looks like it will be a tough one indeed. But that will be for another time. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm out.